And without it, the sale is not going to happen, or it may happen and then the person may come back and try to unwind it afterwards or request a refund, right?
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
You see, there is always a fear when we are babies. Our parents are telling us, don't talk to strangers, don't talk to strangers, don't talk to strangers. And then we have this fear of public speaking, this fear. And after you're in business and all you have to do is talk to strangers. So there is a barrier, and that can be a big challenge. I teach public speaking all over the world, and it's the biggest fear that human being can have because they're facing these barriers. So in mind, let's don't talk about one-to-many. Let's talk about one-to-one. It's an entrepreneur cannot go out there and be able to talk to a stranger and build relationships. Literally cannot be in business.
Harry, you bring up a great point. And so much of our adult lives are spent unwinding those lessons that we internalized as kids, right? What parents forgot to tell us is that there's a time period during which don't talk to strangers might be helpful to us, right? Because they're doing it from a place of wanting us to stay safe. But as young kids, we don't understand that, okay, once we become adults, that's no longer relevant for us, right? So to your five-step framework, I also have five-step framework people can use thinking one-to-one in terms of how
Tell
to
us.
build a
That would be
relationship.
fantastic. Please share it with us.
And absolutely. And it's an acronym. The acronym is I sync, the letter I, and then SYNC. The I stands for intention. So whenever you enter into a conversation with someone, I always suggest a person before that meeting has an intention, an outcome for what they would like to get in that meeting. And this is not to be transactional, like I want to get something from this person. It's more to have an outcome of how you want that interaction to go, keeping in mind that you want it to advance both people's desires and the connection itself. So that's step one, is start with that intention. But then what I tell people is forget about the intention. Step two, which is S, is to shift your state. Whenever you enter an interaction, be it one-to-one or one-to-many, it's very important to start that interaction in a state that is going to, call it, create the right framework for that interaction. So oftentimes I suggest a kind of a calm and powerful state, a curious and playful state, depending on the situation that you may be in. And the reason why that's so important is all of our decisions in life are driven by emotion, all of them. And then we justify the decisions with logic. So we have a reason we can explain to ourselves, to our friends, to our spouses, to our colleagues, why we decided to do something. So step number two is always to shift that state into the state that's going to serve best the conversation that you're having. Step number three, Y, is to yield your identity. Again, forget for a moment who you are or what you want, and just become a blank slate that can pay full attention to the person that you're with and to pay full attention to the conversation that you're having. Make sense? Then the next
Absolutely.
step,
Yeah.
the next step is N, which is to navigate the nervous system. So once you're in this interaction with this person and you've become a blank slate, yielded your identity, the next thing to do is really to pay attention deeply to that other person. Like, how would it feel to be in the other person's shoes, literally, or to be wearing the clothes that you're wearing, or you want to basically give yourself and your nervous system the opportunity to become attuned to the other person very deeply. And what's fascinating there is when you do that, they will pick up on that. And you can create a literal connection between your nervous systems with the other person. And that connection is actually what we call being in sync. And then the last step is to create with coherence. Once you've got that bond, that connection with the other person that you're meeting with, together, let's go ahead and find what would be most beneficial for the both of us. And that's a framework that people can keep in mind, certainly for one-on-one conversations. It can also be used in one-to-many situations. And I encourage people, use it in business, use it with your kids, use it with your spouse. It's relevant everywhere because at the end of the day, we're just talking about how people communicate and get along with each other, right? And all business is people communicating and in relationship with one another with a certain end at the end of the day to exchange some kind of good or service or product.
So in the end of the day, people buy from people that they like and trust, and it is the nature of being an entrepreneur. You have a product that and you have to sell it. You have to offer it to the market, and there are often situations out there that that people feel that they are selling so aggressively, and the problem that we see in this is that they haven't built the relationship yet, right? They haven't go to the likability, to the connection, to the trust, to, oh, I click with that person, could be client, right? And then they jump this, and then they say, well, I have this product, do you want to buy it? And 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 then the conversion rate is really, really low because the relationship is not there. And when you meet a girl, you don't ask her to marry you straight away. You have to take her out to nurture that relationship. And after she trusts you, and some time has happened, then you will get married, right? So, uh, what tips do you have for entrepreneurs out there that they are struggling in the sales process because they are skipping this first step, which is build and nurture the relationship with the with the with the prospect, with the clients?
And that's such a big challenge that you've hit on, Harry. So I would encourage people to think of this process a little bit differently, maybe than they currently do. And I'm going to give the analogy of an internet connection. So our brains and bodies literally link up with one another, just like we connect to the internet service provider, and then we can do a Zoom call, we can send video or text to one another. And as what you're saying is, you're saying a lot of people skip actually the connection and they try to go ahead and send the email or the video to someone before they even have a way to do it. Right. And it really is that stark a difference. So if you sit down with someone and all you're thinking about is, I've got to sell this thing to them, you've kind of lost before you've started, right? Because the sales process itself is not about selling something to another person. Like, you don't have your widget and you need to get people to buy it. What you really need to do is to think the exact opposite and to think, what can I do to start to establish that layer of relationship first? And in the analogy, how can I create the internet connection first? And the brilliance of it is our brains and our bodies know how to do that. They want to do that. And it's more about getting out of our own way than it is about doing something new. And what I mean by that is, if you enter a conversation with a goal just to sell the other person, right? They pick up on that very quickly, right? It's almost as if before the conversation even starts or before the first words come out of your mouth, they're feeling, oh God, this person's trying to get something from me, right? It completely tanks
Mm.
that relationship. And I would say the people you mentioned, the entrepreneurs that are struggling with this process, they enter into these situations with that framework. And maybe it's because that's how they approach sales, or maybe they feel like I got to sell this to make my budget for the month. Or maybe they have felt uncomfortable in selling situations and think that that's what sales is all about. So if people could forget for a moment about needing to sell and really put 90% of the emphasis on starting to build the relationship, right? That is the foundation that has to be in place before you can do it. As you said, you want people to, number one, know you, right? So you got to be there. They know who you are. You want them to trust you, and you want them to like you. Now, I'll say something that might seem a little bit controversial. It might not. So trust does not take time. Trust takes connection. And if your brains and bodies are synchronized with another person, trust exists. So the biggest quote unquote hack for selling that you can do without trying to manipulate, without trying to sell, is to get very good at creating the connection and trust with people, because that will speed up the process. Like you mentioned the kind of about meeting and dating and getting married. And of course, you're going to go out with someone several times, but we've been programmed from the time we were kids that trust takes time. And I disagree. Trust is actually an emotion, and it's an emotion that results from connection. So that would be the area I would tell the entrepreneurs and the people listening here to focus on first. It all comes down to that trust. And without it, the sale is not going to happen, or it may happen and then the person may come back and try to unwind it afterwards or request a refund, right?
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.